I think you have been the first person talking about Kundalini in terms of reawakening. And I love that so much, because the more I become slowly familiar or more familiar with this incredible force, it is something of, this is known better by my system than anything else. Like, this is the beginning of the real reality. Everything before has been a make-up reality. And you then giving me this word of reawakening is something that, like, yeah, reflects this remembrance. This we have been here before. We know each other deeply. So the reawakening, could you talk more about that? I ask also from the background because in Western, I could say naive attempts to awaken Kundalini, it often comes with a kind of, first of all, it's not a process, it's a big bang, and then the universe is born, and then it's over. So that's the thing, a boom, and then the Kundalini is fully awakened. And secondly, it comes with a kind of force, as if it would be something external that has to be manipulated in order to starting to move, like as if it would want to sleep. So could you talk about the reawakening as the kind of, yeah, it has never been a way. It has never been something else than a core or an essence.
The Kundalini energy, the serpent power, is understood, is experienced as a latent power, the power of reality itself, the very same power on a micro level as would be the macro power that unfolds every form, every process, every role play, every function, including the function of sleep, including the function of waking up from sleep, and all of the levels in between, from the deepest sleep to bordering at that juncture, like a dawn, where we start to come awake, where the senses reboot, so to speak, so that we can start to perceive the outer world. All of those functions, all of the forms are made manifest by the same power, the same energy in all of her different capacities. So it is latent. It is an inborn, inherent, innate potentiality. And in the Sanatana Dharma tradition, there is an understanding that this potentiality is a birthright. It's an inheritance. We inherit the power of the universe or the multiverse in our own microverse, in our own individual being. And our own individual being came to be through the grace, the power of this source, consciousness, energy. So it's only a matter of time, in a way. And certainly a yearning, a desire that could accelerate that natural process of reclamation, of reclaiming the power to multiply and to perceive oneself as consciousness in every form. It's only a matter of time. It's a natural matter of course. It's an uncoiling, just as the fetus uncoils, so too does this formlessness, this limitlessness within us that is the consciousness power of every form and limit itself.
It's so beautiful because again it touches this matrix that we touch on so often in these conversations with you. How much this is coming home instead of adding another layer of violence or manipulation to the own system. And still, Uma, I mean, I might ask that as myself, but also for a few million other people. There is a difference between people sitting with you and people sitting with, for example, me. I mean, it's not only a matter of time. I could boil it down to that. What do you think are the necessities? What is an ideal combination of aspects in order to reawaken us to our birthright? Because just obviously, I mean, coming from observation, most of us die with a latent instead of reawakened Kundalini. So what are the accelerators? What are the factors? Including maybe your own role, but you don't have to go there, of course, into whatever kind of detail, or you do not have to point that out specifically, because I do know also it might happen in various reasons, and also to people who are not prepared, who didn't believe in Kundalini, who didn't hear of that. But still, what is a composition of factors that is a seductive kiss for this latent power?
There would be both a general and an individual combination of aspects or factors required in order to wake up, or in order to uncoil that sleeping or dormant consciousness power that is often experienced as a serpent power, or Kundalini is the word that people are now most accustomed to describe this phenomenon. So generally, and again, I would like to refer to the tradition that is running through my cellular memory, my cellular banks, that compounded accelerator or amplifier is known as the Guru. And when we chant to the Guru, this is a very ancient chant. If we boiled it down to just a small thread, it would be Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, which is the evocation, the invocation, but also the expression of the recognition that the Guru, or this compound of ideal factors and aspects that will most certainly accelerate and amplify the reclamation, the reawakening of the Kundalini in such a way that there would be no fragmentation, there would be a straight shot from the root to the brain, a clean shot, a straight, clean shot, almost like a shortcut in a way. That this mantra is very specifically describing that configuration or that combination that has been tested through time. It's been researched and proven through time. It's describing a formula that the Guru, or this embodied human being that the participant is having this Guru-disciple relationship with. It's this very specific recipe or formula that includes Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, that includes the embodied consciousness power of the creator, the sustainer or the protector or the preserver, and the destroyer, or the one who dissolves. So this is right there an ideal configuration, a combination of very specific aspects that will accelerate and amplify within the individual Kundalini Ma, who is, of course, being that she is the consciousness power that unfolds everything that we can perceive. And even the plan, or the conscious plan, the seed of everything that we are wired by nature to perceive and respond to. She too is that, the creatrix, the underlying matrix of all that is to be created, sustained, and dissolved or disintegrated. So she is that continuum. So traditionally, the one who realizes that it is their time, the one who will dedicate their whole life to reawakening or to reclaiming their birthright, which is ultimately to be both limited and limitless at the same time, ordinary and extraordinary at the same time, human and divine at the same time, micro and macro at the same time, individual and universal at the same time, knowing that Kundalini is the facilitator of what is in many ways the impossible. Mm-hmm. So making the impossible possible, Kundalini is that necessary consciousness power. And the individual who knows that, who's ready, who has the context, who has the fearlessness, who has the self-possession, who has the orientation, who has their own powers of discernment switched on, is the one who will seek out an embodiment of that very configuration, that very ideal combination of all aspects to the degree, you know, present and functional to the degree that all that has to pass between them is a glance, is a look, is a word, is a thought, is a dream, is a hug, is a smile. Because within each smile, within each glimpse, within each word is the consciousness power of the continuum, whether that word is to create, whether that glimpse or that hug is to preserve and sustain, and whether that touch might be to destroy and disintegrate, in order for there to be a reabsorption of distracted, fragmented energies, to reabsorb and reclaim those energies that have become trapped in form, an addictive relationship to form, to disintegrate those relationships, to disintegrate those bonds, in order to reabsorb multiplicity into singularity. So this, according to tradition, is, and I love your question, is the ideal configuration of the necessary aspects to awaken Kundalini or reawaken Kundalini, sometimes in a heartbeat, and definitely through the passage of vibratory intention. So that's one way. Today, it has been prophesied in different traditions, certainly in the Sanatana Dharma tradition, it has been foreseen and foretold that the age we live in now is an age where the impossible is made even more possible. The veils are thinner. You might hear that quite often. And things are upside down, the age of the paradox in some ways. Whereas in a different age, we would have had to work harder. We would have had to work longer. And whereas in this age, it is faster and it is simpler. And this Kundalini reawakening is happening now in this age, all over the world, to people, even without the conscious relationship, interrelationship with a guru, even without a tradition, even without a family of practitioners. And this is happening so spontaneously in this age that begs another question. That's another topic, is how then to mitigate. Yes, how then to survive, how then to mitigate the fallout of these spontaneous and instantaneous, sudden and very often unexpected encounters of the individual, ordinary seeming person with the extraordinary, universal, cosmic reality.
So touching what you say. I mean, first of all, what you describe as, again, the individual creating the ideal general container, and the individual not being a victim to the awakening, but more so the creator. So that's so beautiful. As we also touched in the guru-disciple conversations or aspects, it is the disciple who leads himself, herself, as the human into the divine, the divinity inside. So beautiful. And yes, I want to jump onto the second part of what you shared around. It might happen without a context, and it might happen without preparation. And that is how the topic of Kundalini in a serious way became urgent to me. I mean, there was no way around. I have to deal with that. I have to figure out how to handle that. And the two biggest areas of challenge are ongoingly a kind of challenge in my nervous system, in my adrenals, just in a very, very basic sense of how do I get enough minerals for this process? Just super simple day-to-day stuff. And the other thing is exactly I was surprised by that, with the heaviness of the heavy burden on my shoulders of my culture of, you are human. This is not divine. You are not meant to be limitless. You are not meant to be immortal. So this was such a struggle in me, because there was a force unfolding and making its way through my systems and cells with some kind of, no, this is not a discussion. I will just do my job. And I was like, whoa, okay, this is happening for real, and challenging me to sacrifice my human self-images as a kind of humanness as opposite to divine, or mortality as opposite to immortality. So of course, it's not that now I'm not human, not at all, quite the opposite, hopefully. But there was a surprisingly deep, challenging fight for taking myself serious, because not taking myself serious in the definitely also transcendent, also spiritual, also consciousness exploding experiences would have been me causing suffering in a really severe way. And at the same time, the taboo, the collective taboo amongst humans of experiencing themselves in a grounded physical way as expanded, to put it into these words. I mean, I don't want to say great or whatever, because it sounds like ego, and it is the opposite. It's the most humbling experience, being exposed to this inner vastness and powers, and like, take it or leave it, but that's you. I mean, digest it or not, that's up to you. And to some extent, just to put that into this conversation as well, my first real encounters with the Kundalini energy were really, really the end of me taking that lightly, or of me taking that like as if it would be a hobby. It's really something that you listen to instinctively, like whatever this force needs, you better do it in the very first moment you figure out what it is. So there is some kind of, I mean, maybe I'm talking about that in these rough terms, because I really had no tradition guru. idea, etc. And my first real encounter was with an amount of pain that was maybe comparable to some women giving birth. I have no idea, but it was intense. But still, yeah, the multidimensional macrocosm, being in the microcosm, it's a thing. It sounds wonderful, and it is wonderful, and you don't want to change it, and you hope to survive.